My granddaughter's first word was blue. Not mama. Not dada. Blue. She said it while pointing a tiny paint-stained finger at the ocean from her high chair. I should have known then that the world would try to paint her in monochrome, to confine a spirit that saw in a million colors. The day I had to become the villain in my daughter's story to save my granddaughter's soul was the day I learned that the most brutal cuts are made with the scalpel of love, not the blade of hatred. Before I continue, I want to thank you for listening. Truly, it's a comfort to share this weight. If you're comfortable, I'd love to know where you are in the world right now, and what time it is for you. Now let me tell you my story. The end of my world as I knew it didn't begin with a diagnosis or a siren, but with the gentle, persistent chime of my doorbell on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was in my studio, a converted sun porch at the back of the house that smelled of turpentine, linseed oil, and the quiet satisfaction of a life spent making beauty from chaos. On the easel was a half-finished portrait of my granddaughter, Maya. I was trying to capture the specific, fierce light in her 7-year-old eyes, a light that seemed to see the very architecture of the world. The doorbell chimed again, more insistent this time. I wiped my hands on a rag, the vibrant smears of cadmium red and ultramarine a stark contrast to the gray world outside my windows. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find my daughter, Chloe. She was drenched, her expensive designer coat darkened with rain, her hair plastered to her forehead. But it was her eyes that stopped me. They weren't just tired. They were hollowed out, the vibrant, ambitious woman-eyed raised replaced by a ghost holding a single, overstuffed duffel bag. "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracking on the single syllable. She didn't need to say anything else. I pulled her inside, out of the cold, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I took her coat, sat her by the fire, and wrapped her in the old Afghan my own mother had knitted. I made tea, the familiar ritual a anchor in a suddenly tilting world. She held the mug with both hands, not for warmth, but to stop them from shaking. "It's Mark," she finally said, her gaze fixed on the flames. He didn't hit her. He would never. But he broke her tablet. Smashed it on the floor because she was drawing instead of doing her math drills. She looked at me then, and the raw shame in her eyes was a physical blow. He said she was wasting her time. That her doodles wouldn't get her into a top-tier school. That she needed to focus on real subjects. Chloe's voice was a monotone, reciting a script I realized she'd heard too many times. He said I was coddling her. That my bohemian influence was making her soft. We had a fight. A terrible one. He said. He said a lot of things. She didn't elaborate, but I could imagine. Mark was a man who dealt in futures and portfolios, who saw life as a ladder to be climbed, each rung a measurable, quantifiable achievement. My daughter, once a fiery art history major, had slowly been sanded down by his world, her sharp edges polished into the smooth, acceptable finish of a corporate wife. Maya, my wild, brilliant, artistic Maya, was the last remaining piece of unpolished stone in his perfectly curated garden, and he had finally taken a chisel to her. "Where is she?" I asked, my voice tight. "Asleep in the car," Chloe said, fresh tears welling. She was so quiet the whole way here. She just clutched her sketchbook. She didn't even cry. That silence terrified me more than any scream. I went out into the rain and opened the back door of Chloe's luxury SUV. Maya was curled up on the leather seat, fast asleep, her lashes dark against pale cheeks. Clutched in her arms was her sketchbook, the cover smeared with color. I gathered her up, her small body limp and trusting, and carried her into the house, into the warmth and the light. I tucked her into the guest bed, the one she called her artist's loft, and placed her sketchbook on the nightstand. As I closed the door, I made a silent vow to the fierce protective creature that is a grandmother's love. Asterisk, no one will dim your light, my darling. Not on my watch. Asterisk, the first few days were a fragile, quiet bubble. Maya slowly emerged from her shell, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. My studio became her sanctuary. The floor was soon littered with her creations. Fantastical creatures with wings of intricate patterns, Galaxies born from finger paints, self-portraits that captured a startling depth of emotion for one so young. She was healing. Chloe, however, was a different story. She was like a battery constantly draining, jumping at every phone notification, her mind clearly back in that sterile multimillion-dollar house with the man who had systematically dismantled her spirit. She talked about going back, about fixing things. She used words like pragmatic and realistic. She said Mark was under a lot of pressure at the hedge fund. She said he wanted what was best for Maya. He just had a different way of showing it. I listened, my heart sinking with every justification. She was trying to convince herself more than me. The gravitational pull of the life she'd built, of the financial security and the social status, was immense. I could see her being pulled back into the orbit of a man who saw her daughter's soul as a liability. The breaking point came a week later. I was in the kitchen making lunch when I heard Chloe on the phone in the living room. Her voice was low, pleading. "Mark, please. She's happy here." "I know, but..." "It was just a tablet. She's 7, for God's sake." "Her imagination? Since when is that a bad thing?" "Fine. Fine. We'll talk about it tonight when you come over." She hung up. I stood frozen, a knife in my hand hovering over a tomato. He was coming here. The wolf was being invited back into the sanctuary. He arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, as precise and unyielding as a spreadsheet. He filled my small, colorful foyer with his presence, his custom-tailored suit a suit of armor against our messy, creative world. "Judith," he said, with a nod that was all cold formality. "Chloe, let's discuss this like adults." We sat in the living room. Maya, sensing the tension, had retreated to my studio. I could feel her listening from the hallway. "Chloe, this has gone on long enough," Mark began, his voice calm, reasonable, and utterly condescending. "You've made your point. It's time to come home. Maya has a standardized test prep session this Saturday. It's crucial for her application to the Whitmore Academy next year." Application? I heard myself say, my voice dangerously quiet. "She's 7, Mark. She should be applying mud to paper and making leaf rubbings, not prepping for a private school entrance exam." He turned his gaze to me, a slow, dismissive sweep. "With all due respect, Judith, the world is competitive. Sentimentality won't secure her future. I will not have my daughter ending up as a struggling artist waiting tables because she followed a passion." He said the word passion as if it were a contagious disease. "Her passion is what makes her her," Chloe said, but her voice was weak, wavering. "Is it?" Mark countered, his eyes locking onto hers. "Or is it what you want it to be? Living in this charmingly cluttered little house, scraping by? Is that what you want for her, Chloe? Because I can give her a future. I can give her security. I can give her a name that opens doors. Can you?" It was the final calculated blow. He wasn't just attacking Maya. He was attacking Chloe's deepest insecurities, her own abandoned dreams. I saw the fight go out of her. Her shoulders slumped. She was folding. And then Mark delivered the masterstroke. He looked toward the studio doorway, where Maya was now standing, her small face pale and serious. "Maya, sweetheart," he said, his voice shifting to a parody of warmth. "Daddy's sorry about your tablet. We'll get you a new one, a better one, and we'll get you all the new math and science apps you want. How does that sound?" He was buying her. He was offering a shiny, expensive bribe to trade her colors for his numbers. He was treating her soul like a business deal. Maya looked from her father's expectant face to her mother's defeated one. Her lower lip trembled. She was 7. The temptation of a new toy, the desire to make the yelling stop, the innate need for a father's approval. It was an unfair fight. And in that moment, I saw two futures diverge with terrifying clarity. In one, Maya went back, her spirit slowly crushed under the weight of expectations, her light extinguished, becoming another polished, unhappy product of her father's world. In the other, she stayed. She fought. She kept her light. I took the last step, the one no one expected, the one that would make me the villain. Get out, Mark, I said, my voice not loud but absolute, filling the room like a physical force. He blinked, turning to me with a condescending smile. I beg your pardon? You heard me. Get out of my house. You don't get to bribe your way out of breaking your daughter's heart. You don't get to purchase her silence. And you are not taking them with you. Chloe stared at me aghast. Mom, what are you doing? I am drawing a line, I said, my eyes never leaving Mark's. You want to go back to that, Chloe? To a man who sees your daughter's greatest gift as a flaw? Then go. Get your coat. Walk out that door with him right now. I let the awful ultimatum hang in the air. I was forcing her to choose in this moment, under the gaze of her terrified daughter, which world she believed in. But, I continued, my voice breaking for the first time, if you do, you go without Maya. The silence was deafening. Mark actually laughed, a short, incredulous bark. You're insane. You have no right. I have every right. I thundered, the sound shocking even to me. I was no longer a grandmother, an artist, a gentle soul. I was a force of nature. I am her grandmother, and I will not stand by and watch you destroy her. You think your money and your connections give you power? Try me. I will spend my last breath, my last penny fighting you in every court in this country. I will show the judge her artwork. I will show him the broken tablet. I will show him a father who sees a balance sheet where his child's heart should be. Now, get out. I pointed to the door. My hand was steady. My heart was a block of ice. Mark looked from my furious face to Chloe's stunned one. He saw the resolve in my eyes, and for the first time I saw a flicker of uncertainty. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a declaration of war, and he hadn't seen it coming. Chloe, he said, his voice tight, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Are you going to let her keep your daughter from you? Chloe looked at him, then at Maya's small, hopeful, terrified face in the doorway. She looked at the duffel bag by the stairs, a symbol of her brief, failed rebellion. She looked at me, at the fierce, unyielding love in my eyes that was willing to become the monster in her story to save the heroine in Maya's. And she made her choice. She walked over to Maya, knelt down and wrapped her arms around her. She held her tight, burying her face in her daughter's hair. She's not keeping her from me, Mark, Chloe said, her voice muffled but clear. She's keeping her for me. Now I think you should leave. The air went out of him. The master of the universe, defeated in a cluttered living room by a painter and a child's sketchbook. He stared at us, a tableau of maternal solidarity he could not comprehend and could not break. Without another word he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the house, a final brutal period at the end of a sentence. We didn't move. We stayed there, the three of us holding each other on the floor, as the rain began to fall again outside. It was over. And it was just beginning. Chloe looked at me, her eyes full of a complex storm of emotions. Gratitude, fear, shock, and a dawning terrible understanding of the price of freedom. Mom, she whispered. What have we done? I smoothed her hair back from her forehead, the way I had when she was a little girl, my own heart aching with a love so vast and so painful it felt like dying and being born all at once. What we had to, my love, I whispered back, holding my daughter and my granddaughter in the warm, defiant light of the fire. We saved the most precious thing we had.